Good day, everyone, and welcome to another session on the school legislation and finance. Today, we will talk about laws on education. This is in response to the felt need of teacher educators, school division superintendents, administrators, school heads, supervisors, professional teachers, practitioners, and even student teachers. So this discussion will account for selected legislations and their implementing rules and regulations. So the mention of the corresponding amendments are also included part of the discussion for your reference. So I will have this discussion divided in three parts. So the first part will be to include Article 14 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, highlighting the constitutional mandate on education, and of course, the very basis of the Educational Act of 1982. Further, we have laws pertaining to the creation of the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, the Technical Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, the Governance Act for Basic Education, and even the new basic education law, okay, including the creation of the Teacher Education Council that is attached to the Department of Education. So the comprehensive policy and system for early childhood care and development, and of course, some executive orders, for example, the EO renaming the Bureau of National Education to the Bureau of Alternative Learning System are as well included in the discussion. The second part will dwell on the laws on the professionalization of teaching, the Magna Carta for public school teachers, the Localization Act governing the appointment of classroom teachers, and the Code of Ethics that is promulgated by the Board of Professional Teachers as mandated in Republic Act number 7836. So moreover, the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for public officials and uh, public servants. They provide uh, also a ready reference not only for educators but also for other civil service employees. Then finally, the third, it being on laws on special education funds, we will tackle the establishment of free public secondary education and even tertiary education with the new law governing free tuition fee in the tertiary level and the nationalization of secondary schools. Additionally, laws on government assistance to students and teachers in private education and science and technology scholarship program are made part of the discussion. Okay, but we will try to select which are the more important laws and legislations. So allow me to begin with the first set of laws on educational system and governance. Okay. So if we talk about the primary basis for the system of education in the country, okay, we are referring to no less than the Constitution, which basically is the basic Bible of all Filipinos, and providing basic provisions that serve for basis of the laws that are promulgated in the country. So we begin with the discussion of Article number 14 on education, science and technology, arts and culture, as well as sports. Okay, so this is the constitutional provision, okay, which is reflected in Article number 14. Okay. So we begin with the provision on education. Okay, so I hope that you have your pens and papers with you to take down notes. So we begin with section 1. So section 1 of the said article states that the state shall protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels. Okay, please note, protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality educations at all levels. So later, we will have to discuss what is meant by quality education. So please take note of that. And shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all. So if you will have to sum it up in few words, we are talking about the educational system in the Republic of the Philippines as being described as quality education and one that is accessible. Okay, so allow me to begin with that constitutional provision. Okay, so moving on, section 2, okay, further provides that the state shall, number 1, okay, establish, maintain, and support a complete, adequate, and integrated system of education relevant to the needs of the people and society. Okay, so the establishment, maintenance, and support thing of a complete, adequate, and integrated system of education. So I'd like to point it out and place highlight on these 3 adjectives to the kind of system of education, okay, that the Republic of the Philippines aspires to achieve. So we have complete, okay, adequate, and integrated system. Okay, so that is to address, okay, relevantly, okay, the needs of the people and society. So number 2, paragraph of section 2 states that the state shall establish and maintain a system of free public education in the elementary and high school levels. So if you will take a look at the constitutional provision, okay, it only mentions of elementary and high school levels for free public education. Okay, and that is without limiting the natural right of the parents to rear their children. Elementary education is compulsory for all children of all age. Take note of the term compulsory. Okay, so elementary education is compulsory for all children of school age. So if you will have to refer to the resource material that I have given to you, we have, okay, part of the general discussion on the structure of the Philippine education about the ideal age, okay, per level. Okay, so additionally, okay, establish and maintain a system of scholarship grants, okay, student loan programs, subsidies, and other incentives, which shall be available to deserving students in both public and private schools. Take note that the coverage for the grant of scholarships or scholarship opportunities, student loan programs, subsidies, and other incentives, okay, are deserving students. Okay, so there is a qualifier, deserving students, okay, in both public and private schools, which is why we have, you know, for the private education, okay, the Private Education Assistance Committee, okay, which is under the Department of Education, that is mandated to support, okay, the private education through scholarships like ESC or education service contracting, and then we also have what we term as voucher program, and that is for senior high school. Okay. So when we talk about deserving students, we primarily address, okay, the underprivileged, okay? Meaning the poor but deserving students. So that is the third paragraph under section 2. Then we have paragraph number 4, okay? Encouraging non-formal, formal, and indigenous learning systems, okay? So as well as self-learning, independent, and out-of-school study programs, particularly those that respond to community needs, okay? So non-formal, formal, even indigenous learning systems. That's why we have what we call as IP education or IPED, okay? IP stands for Indigenous Peoples, okay? Education or IPED. So we have select communities across the archipelago that have been offering, okay, specific and special program for indigenous people, okay? So that is IPED. And we also have a special, okay, program for Muslims, okay? I think you have heard of madrasa, okay? So madrasa, okay, is a separate program, okay, specifically for Muslims. And then we also have generally to address other indigenous peoples in the country, okay, we have IPED or Indigenous Peoples Education. And number 5, which is the last, provide adult citizens. Okay, so even adults have have been given attention. Okay, not only them, but also the disabled and the out of school youth, with trainings in civics, vocational efficiency, and other skills. This is to ensure that no one is left behind. Okay, so we have adult education, also called andragogy. Okay, then we have for the differently abled. Okay, and then we have for the OSY. Okay, so that is the coverage of section 2, okay, of article 4 on provisions pertaining to education. Okay, so moving on, we have section number 3, paragraph number 1, that states that all educational institutions shall include the study of constitution as part of the curricula, which is why, okay, the curriculum, okay, particularly in the post-secondary, okay, have a part of the programs, okay, curricular programs, the study of constitution. Okay. Number 2, okay, the inculcation of patriotism and nationalism. Okay, so it is very much uh, in place, okay, and mandated, by the Constitution, the inculcation of patriotism and nationalism. Not only that, the fostering of love of humanity, respect for human rights, appreciation of the role of national heroes in the historical development of the country, and teach the rights and duties of citizens. Okay, meaning we also teach good citizenship to our students, strengthen ethical and spiritual values, develop moral character and personal discipline, encourage critical and creative thinking, broaden scientific and technological knowledge, and promote vocational efficiency. And finally, at the option expressed in writing by the parents or guardians, take note, at the option expressed in writing by the parents or guardians, religion shall be allowed to be taught to their children onwards in public elementary and high schools. And that is within the regular class hours by instructors designed or approved by the religious authorities of the religion to which the children or wards belong, without additional cost to the government. I think sister can also attest to this, okay? And maybe we can ask from her some comments or insights about teaching of religion in the educational institutions later. So please take note of that, sister. We also have for section number 4, the state recognizes the complementary roles of the public and private institutions. So this is what we refer to as complementarity. Okay? Complementarity, meaning it's public-private partnership. So the government or the state shall not only focus on the public institutions, but also the private institutions in the educational system, and shall exercise reasonable supervision and regulation of all educational institutions. Okay? So remember the fundamental role the state exercises. Reasonable supervision and regulation of all, okay, take note, all, okay, educational institutions. So I happen to remember that famous adage, okay, which I always, almost always read every time I tread the main thoroughfares of Manila. The law applies to all, okay, otherwise none at all. Okay? So the execution of the laws, okay, has no exemption. Okay? But of course, there are what we term as exemptions. But insofar as the general provisions, okay, we talk about the universal application of laws. Then we also have the following provisions. Educational institutions other than those established by religious groups and mission boards shall be owned solely by the citizens of the Philippines or corporations or associations at least 60% of. So I'm not going to discuss about it because this already pertains to some provisions of the Corporation Code of the Philippines, otherwise known as Batas Pambansa Bilang 68. So the Congress may, however, require increased Filipino equity participation in all education institutions. So this is to ensure that the program, okay, will be for the Filipinos, okay, and majority by the Filipinos. So the control and administration of educational institutions shall be vested in citizens of the Philippines. So please take note of that. So no educational institution shall be established exclusively for aliens, and no group of aliens shall comprise more than 1/3 of the enrollment in any school. Which is why even international schools are regulated in terms of the number of the local students and the international students. So the provisions of this subsection, okay, shall not apply to schools established for foreign diplomatic personnel. Remember that we also have extensions of the different governments through the diplomatic relationships, okay, exercised by the two nations, okay, and of course their dependents, okay, and unless otherwise provided by law, okay, for other foreign temporary residents. Okay, so that are the exemptions. Okay, so I'm not going to mention the others and proceed to section number 5, okay, which states that the state shall take into account regional and sectoral needs and conditions, and shall encourage local planning in the development of educational policies and programs. Okay, so the offering of the programs, particularly by the provincial schools or educational institutions should be, okay, in accordance with the regional and sectoral needs and conditions. Okay, so for example, we promote agricultural development, say in the province of Pangasinan, okay, particularly with the senior high school program. So we have specific subjects that promotes the local culture. Okay, so that is under section 5, paragraph 1. And then we have this number 2, academic freedom. Again, so this will be discussed further later, in addition to quality education, okay, the term academic freedom. Okay. So academic freedom shall be enjoyed in all institutions of higher learning. So the focus of this academic freedom is the higher education institutions. Number 3, every citizen has a right to select a profession or course of study. Okay? So choosing your profession or course, okay, is a right, okay, and subject to fair, reasonable, and equitable admission and academic requirements. So there's also something that will strike the balance, no? So you might be asking me, what about in nursing? So they prescribe certain requirements like this and that, or in board courses like accountancy. So they sometimes prescribe, entry requirements. So there is a clause, okay, that states that the enjoyment of the right to selection of a profession or course of study shall be subject to fair, reasonable, and equitable admission and academic requirements. So we talk about admission requirements as well. So especially the private educational institutions, okay, they have also the right to prescribe for admission requirements or admission and retention requirements, okay, or policies. Next, the state shall enhance the right of teachers to professional advancement. So it is mandated by the Constitution, professional advancement of teachers. So non-teaching, academic, and non-academic personnel shall enjoy the protection of the state as well. Okay. Then we have the state shall assign the highest budgetary priority to education, which is why if you will take a look at the annual budget of the Republic of the Philippines, it is always that the Department of Education has the biggest slice, okay, of the annual budget. Okay, and this is to ensure that teaching will attract and retain its rightful share of the best available talents. No, because we have heard of brain drain, right? So some of our teachers, especially in the early years, no, they were lured. Sorry for the word, but they, in the search for greener pastures, have had considered employment abroad. Maybe not as teachers, but some of them are lucky to land on a teaching job, but others, they settle for other jobs, okay, not necessarily in line with teaching. Okay, so that is the provision on assigning the highest budgetary priority to education. Okay, so this is to retain the rightful share of the best available talents through adequate remuneration. Okay, adequate. Okay, that's why you have heard of the RAT plan, okay, or rationalization plan, and other means of job satisfaction and fulfillment. So in addition to the RAT plan, you also have the PBB, okay, and other provisions, okay, that will promote job satisfaction and fulfillment. Okay. So then we have provision on language. Okay. So let me just identify for you what are the more important ones. Okay. So we begin with section 6. So as we all know, the national language of the Philippines is Filipino. Okay. As it evolves, it shall be further developed and enriched on the basis of existing Philippine or other languages. Okay. So subject to the provisions of law and as the Congress may deem appropriate, so the government shall take steps to initiate and sustain the use of Filipino as a medium of official communication and as language of instruction in the educational system. Okay. Section 7. Okay. For the purposes of communication and instruction, the official languages, okay, of the Philippines are Filipino and, until otherwise provided by law, English. Okay. So that is to highlight the yeah, the so-called the so-called two language, okay, two primary two official languages. Okay, we have Filipino and English. So the regional languages are auxiliary official languages, especially now that we have part of the new basic educational system. Okay, the teaching of the mother tongue. Okay, the teaching of the mother tongue and teaching in mother tongue, because the multilingual MTB MLA MLE MTB multi mother tongue based multilingual education. Okay, MTB MLE. Okay, it centers on two things. Okay, mother tongue as a language, as a subject. Okay, and then mother tongue as a medium of instruction. Okay, so mother tongue as a subject and mother tongue as a medium of instruction. Okay, so Spanish and Arabic, especially in Mindanao, okay, shall be promoted on a voluntary and optional basis. Now, particularly as what I have mentioned, no, madrasa. Okay, so we have, for example, in the city of Dagupan, Muslim communities. So they have, yeah, so the madrasa program is being offered to the young Muslims in Muslim communities like Bonuan and in Barangay 2. Okay. Then we have provision on science and technology. So science and technology are essential to national development and progress. Okay. So the state shall give priority to research and development. Take note. So it is under science and technology, where research and development was mentioned. Also invention, innovation, and their utilizations. Okay. And to science and technology education and training and services. So it shall support indigenous, okay, appropriate and self-reliant scientific and technological capabilities and their application to the country's productive systems and national life. Okay, so there are other provisions, okay, like for example, the state shall protect and secure the exclusive rights of scientists, okay, inventors, artists, and other gifted citizens to their intellectual property. That's why we have the Intellectual Property Rights Law, IPR law. Okay, and other creations, particularly when beneficial to the people for such period as may be provided by law. Okay, so then we have also sports. Okay, so the state shall promote physical education and encourage sports program, league competitions, and amateur sports, okay, including training for international competitions to foster self-discipline, teamwork, and excellence for the development of a healthy and alert citizenry. So we promote sports and development in order to develop a healthy and alert citizenry. The Latin quotation, no? Men sana in corpore sano. Okay, men sana in corpore sano, meaning a healthy mind in a healthy body. So if you have healthy body, okay, you have healthy mind, and so you become productive. Okay. So all educational institutions shall undertake regular sports activities throughout the country in cooperation with athletic clubs and other sectors. Okay, so that will be for the constitutional provisions on education, science and technology, arts, culture, and sports. So are there any questions at this point in time? Any questions?
None.
None for now. So may I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you po.
All clear? All clear? Is this sister?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we now proceed to Batas Pambansa bilang 232. You see, you may be wondering why the national laws have different terms like Batas Pambansa, we have Republic Act. You will note that the term Batas Pambansa was used prior to the more recent times. So we have uh, the term Batas Pambansa uh, for laws that were approved, several years back. Okay? So this one in 1982. Okay, but I think after the EDSA revolution, so we started already renaming the national laws into Republic Act. Okay? So if I'm not mistaken, so that's how um, the different national laws are termed. Okay, so any national laws, okay, have the following parts. So we have the number of the law. Okay, so we have, for example, Batas Pambansa bilang number 232. We also have what we call as the title. So you have the title, you have the short title, and then we have the long title. For example, Batas Pambansa bilang 232 is Education Act of 1982. Okay, and the longer title is an act providing for the establishment and maintenance of an integrated system of education. And then we have, of course, the stipulations, and any laws have what we call as penal provisions. Okay, penal provisions is that section that prescribes penalties for conformance, okay, by the Filipino citizens, okay, and all those who are subjected to the said laws. Then we also have what we term as transitory provisions. The term transitory provisions usually is provided as part of the set of provisions for laws that have related laws. Like there are certain provisions of another law that that the uh, more recent law, okay, is uh, that certain provisions of the more recent laws tend to overlap with. Okay? So there ought to be a discussion about transition, so transitory period. Okay, so that's for the said, okay, provisions, transitory provisions. And then we also have the effectivity clause. The term effectivity clause usually, okay, is can be found at the last part, no, indicating when this law shall take effect. Okay, so that is the so-called transitor. That is the so-called um, effectivity clause. Okay, so effectivity clause. So please take note of all the parts of a law. Okay. So now let's talk about Batas Pambansa bilang 232. So this is the Education Act of 1982 and shall apply to and govern. Okay, so application to and governing formal and non-formal systems in both public and private schools in all levels of the entire educational system. Okay, so then we now have for chapter 2 the Declaration of Basic State Policies and Objectives. We begin with the following, section 3. So it is the policy of the state to establish and maintain a complete, adequate, and integrated system. So I have mentioned that earlier, so we will have a discussion about it afterwards. Okay, relevant to the goals of national development. So we always have it in terms of national and regional development. You have heard me discussing about the offering of curricular programs that are consistent with the regional and sectoral needs. Okay. So toward this end, the government shall ensure, within the context of a free and democratic system, maximum contribution of the educational system to the attainment of the following national development goals. So we have all of these, okay, provisions, okay, governing basic education or education in general in order to support the following national development goals. Number one, achieve and maintain an accelerating rate of economic development and social progress. Okay. So that is the first national development goal. Okay. Achievement and maintenance of an accelerating rate of economic development and social progress. Number two, assure the maximum participation of all the people in the attainment and enjoyment of the benefits of such growth. Okay. And then finally, achievement and strengthening of national unity and consciousness, and preserve, develop, and promote desirable culture, moral, and spiritual values in a changing world. So these are the three. Okay. So the state shall promote the right of every individual, okay, to relevant quality education that is regardless of sex, age, creed, socioeconomic status, physical and mental conditions. That's why we also have special education, okay? Racial or ethnic origin. That's why we have IPED. We have madrasa, political or other affiliations. So there are also some provisions like declaring schools as no war zones. Okay. So the state shall therefore promote and maintain equality of access to education as well as the enjoyments of the benefits of education by all its citizens. Okay. So the state shall promote the right of the nation's cultural communities in the exercise of their right to develop themselves within the context of their cultures, customs, traditions, interests, and belief, and recognizes education, okay, as an instrument for their maximum participation in national development and in ensuring their involvement in achieving national unity. So we talk about political participation also. Okay. So discussing further, okay, as for the declaration of objectives, so the educational system aims to, okay, number one, provide for a broad general education that will assist each individual in the peculiar ecology of his own society to, number one, attain his potentials as human beings. So we talk about a holistic, okay, program of general education, okay, that will maximize the fullest potentials of the individuals. Number two, enhance the range and quality of individual and group participation in basic functions of society. And number three, acquire the essential educational foundation of his development into a productive and versatile citizen. Okay. Then we have the second objective. Okay. Train the nation's manpower in the middle level skills required for national development. That's why if you will have to take a look at the new basic education institution, the senior high school, okay, talks about technical and vocational education for middle level skills development. Okay. And number three, develop the professions that will provide leadership for the nation in the advancement of knowledge for improving the quality of human life. So we have the improvement of the quality of human life by developing the professions that will provide leadership for the nation in the advancement of knowledge. And lastly, respond effectively to the changing needs. So time and again, the term changing world and changing needs, no, changing time, okay, has been mentioned, no, in the Philippine Constitution, okay, and in other related laws. Okay. So respond effectively to changing needs and conditions of the nation through a system of educational planning and evaluation, which is why pre-pandemic time we have an undertaking by the Department of Education in collaboration with the government of Australia, okay, for the strategic planning, okay, process. Okay, so let me check if I still have the copy of the output of the collaboration between the Philippine government and the Australian government insofar as educational planning and evaluation is concerned. Okay, so towards the realization of these objectives, the four that I mentioned and pursuant to the Constitution, all educational institutions shall aim to inculcate the following. Now, what are these? Love of country, teach the duties of citizenship, and develop moral character, personal discipline, and scientific, technological, and vocational efficiency, which actually calls to mind the basic constitutional provision that we have discussed earlier. So, Batas Pambansa bilang 232, okay, hinges on this the said constitutional provisions for basis of this promulgation. So furthermore, the educational system shall reach out to educationally deprived communities. Remember the scholarship that I have mentioned and other opportunities which shall be made available primarily to deserving students, especially the underprivileged. Okay, in order to give meaningful reality to the membership in the national society. Okay, in a government which is democratic, okay, we also observe, okay, the following general rule. Okay, the those who have less in life shall have more, no, in so far as democratic government is concerned. So those who have less in life, they shall be given more. Okay. Right? So this is in order to give meaningful reality to their membership in the national society, to enrich their civic participation in the community and national life, and to unify all Filipinos into a free and just nation. Okay? Free and just a nation. Okay? So that is for the first part on general provisions of Batas Pambansa bilang 232. Then we also have for the second part on educational community some preliminary provisions. We have the declaration of policy. Please check this out later. Definition of the following, say for example, parents. Okay, so just to have a sample of the terms that were defined, parents. Okay, so or guardians or the head of the institution or foster home which has custody of the pupil or student. So that is what that is the operational meaning of the term parents as introduced in this legal document. Okay. Number two, we have students. Okay, so I think it's already more an academic what a student is in the purview of the law. Nonetheless, excuse me, there are those who are enrolled in and who regularly attend an educational institution or secondary or higher level, or a person engaged in a formal study. The term pupils, okay, are those who regularly attend a school of elementary and under the supervision and tutelage of a teacher. Okay, so that's pupils. Okay, and then we have school personnel to include the following. We have teaching or academic staff, school administrators, academic non-teaching personnel, and non-academic personnel. Okay, so these are the four. And then we have schools. And then we have also community participation. So as early as 1982, we already invoke, okay, the participation of the community. So it states that in Batas Pambansa Bilang 232 that every educational institution shall provide for the establishment of appropriate bodies, okay, through which the members of the educational communities may discuss relevant issues and communicate information and suggestions for assistance and support of the school and for the promotion of their common interest. Okay, so that will be for the community participation provision. So additionally, representatives from each subgroup, okay, of the educational community shall sit and participate in these bodies. That's why we also have school boards and is supported by the local government code of 1991. Okay, right? So the rules and procedures of which must be approved by them and duly published. Okay, so it is already entrenched. Okay, the participation of the community in local schools board or LSBs, okay, as guaranteed by the local government code of 1991. Okay, Republic Act number 7160. Okay, so we also have on chapter 2 the rights. Okay, next meeting, okay, I'll be assigning to you, okay, a specific set of topics, no, for individual topic discussion on student and teacher rights. Okay, so this is to back up our discussion on the set of rights that are stipulated in Batas Pambansa Bilang 232. So I'm not going to yeah, so I'll just like to have a run through of it, no, but the more specific discussion will be delivered in the course of the individual topic discussion. Okay, so the guidelines will also be discussed later, as I intend to have it okay, uploaded in the Google Classroom, including the guidelines for the preparation of the report and the use of the slides presentation. Okay, so we begin with section 8, right? Rights of parents. Okay, so listen carefully. Okay, so I think you all know this, but let us refresh our memories about the set of rights, you know, of the different groups in the school community. So we have to begin with the parents. So in addition to other rights under existing laws, all parents who have children enrolled in a school shall have the following rights. So what are the rights of the parents insofar as the operation of the school is concerned? Number one, right to organize by themselves and or with teachers. So parents, exclusive parents association, or it can be a combination or partnership of the parents and the teachers, okay, for the purpose of providing a forum for the discussion of matters relating to the total school program and for ensuring the full cooperation of parents and teachers in the formulation and efficient implementation of such programs. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the right to access to any official records, okay, directly relating to the children who are under their parental responsibility. The right, okay, this right, okay, is only limited to the official record directly relating to the children who are under their parental responsibility. So they cannot, no, have an access, or they do not have an access, okay, of the records of other students, okay, or children other than their children under their personal responsibility. Okay. So these are the two rights of parents. Number two, the rights of students in school. Okay. So we have number one, right to receive, primarily through competent instruction, relevant quality education. So here's another term, relevant. So earlier we have quality education, and then we have accessible, and this time it's relevant. Okay, in line with national goals and conducive, okay, to their full development as persons with human dignity. So the Republic of the Philippines regard the students as persons with human dignity. Okay, number one. Number two, the right to freely choose their field of study. I think I already mentioned this, subject to existing curricula and to continue their course therein up to graduation. Okay, except in cases of academic deficiency or violation of disciplinary regulation. That's why it is very important that you have to have it everything in the manual of operation, especially in the private institutions. Okay, so you have to have your manual, so everything is there. So any transgressions, okay, by the students, are covered by the manual of operation. Okay. Also, the right of school guidance and counseling services for making decisions. Okay, and selecting the alternatives in fields of work suited to his potentials. So you see, guidance and counseling as a program, okay, and as a unit in an educational institution is very essential. Okay, it is very fundamental because it is a right among students to receive, okay, school guidance and counseling services. Okay, so that's number three. Then number four, the right to access his own school records. Okay, own school records, the confidentiality of which the school shall maintain and preserve, especially now that we have what we call as Data Privacy Act. The Data Privacy Act in general applies to individual informations. Okay, so always remember that. So it is guaranteed by law that all personal information are shall be kept with utmost confidentiality. Okay. Next, the right of the issuance of official certificates, diplomas, transcript of records, grades, transfer credentials, and other similar documents. Okay, and meron tayong clause, no, within 30 days from request. So we have the 30-day rule. Always remember that when dealing with any transactions with any governmental offices, there's this 30-day rule. Okay, 30-day rule, especially when you are asking them to act on a particular matter or an issue and a concern. Okay, they need to respond to you within the 30-day period. Otherwise, it is deemed, okay, not being addressed. Okay, and so you can ask for reprieve. Okay, so the right to publish a student paper and similar publications, as well as the right to invite resource persons during assemblies, symposia, and other activities of similar nature. Okay, so we have school journalism. Okay, school journalism, because they have the right to publish a student paper. Number 7, the right to free expression of opinions and suggestions and to effective channels of communication with appropriate academic and administrative bodies of the school or institution. I'd like to repeat that. Now, you might have it in the wrong context, the free expression of opinions and suggestions, so long as you don't malign or put to bad light, okay, the name of the institution. Because once you have done that, because once a student have for example, okay, have maligned no, the institution, this can serve as a ground for disciplinary actions. Okay, depending on the gravity, okay, or the extent, okay, of the offense. Okay. So the right to form, establish, join, and participate in organizations and societies recognized by the school to foster the intellectual, cultural, spiritual, and physical growth and development, or to form, establish, join, and maintain organizations and societies for purposes not contrary to law. Okay, so there's always, okay, a balancing clause. Okay, so the student may have right, but in the exercise of the right, okay, it should not be something that will trample on somebody else's foot. Okay, right is no longer right when you exercise it at the expense of other people. Right? And then the right to be free from involuntary contributions, except those approved by their own organizations or societies. Okay. So I think you have for the public schools a memorandum order, okay, by the Department of Education on the collection policies. Okay, so please refer to those. Then we have the rights of all personnel, the right to free expression of opinion and suggestions, the right to be provided with free legal service. Okay, that's why we have uh, free services, free legal services offered. Okay, by government, by the appropriate government office in the case of public school personnel, and through the school authorities concerned in the case of private school personnel. Okay. When charged in an administrative, civil, and or criminal proceedings by parties other than the school or regulatory authorities concerned for actions, okay, committed directly in the lawful discharge of professional duties and or in defense of his school policy. So it should be within the context of the function of the individual in so far as the school operation is concerned. Then we have the right to establish, join, and maintain labor organizations and or professional and self-regulating organizations, and then the right to free from involuntary contributions, except. Okay, all right. Then we have rights and or privileges of teaching or academic staff. Okay, so we have right to be free from compulsory assessments, sorry, not assessment, but right to be free from compulsory assignments, okay, not related to their duties as defined in their appointment or employment contracts, unless compensated therefore. Okay, conformably existing laws. Okay. The right to intellectual property. Okay. The next, teacher shall be deemed persons in authority. This is very important. Once you are exercising your role as a teacher, you are deemed persons in authority. Okay? When in the discharge of lawful duties and responsibilities, and shall therefore be accorded with due respect and protection. Okay. And then the last, teacher shall be accorded the opportunity to choose alternative career lines, either in a school administration, in a school, in classroom teaching, or others for purposes of career advancement. Okay. Then we have the special rights of school administrators. Okay. Special rights. Okay. So we have school administrators shall, in accordance with existing laws, regulations, and policies of the Department of Education, be accorded sufficient administrative discretion necessary for efficient performance of their functions. Okay, so school administrators shall also be deemed persons in authority while in the discharge of lawful duties and responsibilities. Then finally, we have the rights of the schools. Okay, so we have, in addition to the rights provided by law, schools shall enjoy the following. There are two. Number one, right of their governing boards or lawful authorities to provide for the proper governance of the school and to adopt and enforce administrative or management systems. Then next, we have the right for institutions of higher learning to determine on academic grounds who shall be admitted to study, who may teach, and what shall be the subjects of the study and research. Okay? So, Batas Pambansa Bilang 232 also covers the discussion of duties and obligations, which we will have to discuss very cursorily. So I just like to pick up some important ones. Okay, for example, parents individually or collectively through the school system shall help carry out the educational objectives. Parents shall be obliged to enable their children to obtain elementary education and shall strive to enable them to obtain secondary and higher education in the pursuance of the right formation of the youth. Okay, so they shall cooperate with the school and in the implementation of the program, both curricular and co-curricular. Then what about duties and responsibilities of the students? Okay. So we have exert his utmost to develop his potentials for service, uphold the academic integrity of the school. Okay. So the students shall uphold the academic integrity of the school. Then promote and maintain the peace and tranquility of the school by observing the rules of discipline. Okay. Then participate actively in civic affairs and in promotion of general welfare. So this provision supports the conduct of extension services and exercises rights responsibly, in the knowledge that he is answerable for any infringement or violation of the public welfare and the rights of others. Then we have teachers' obligations. Okay. So teachers shall perform his duties to school by discharging his responsibilities. Okay, be accountable for the efficient and effective attainment of his specified learning objectives. Render regular reports on performance of his students. Okay, and inform the parents and the guardians with the specific suggestions or improvements regarding the performance of the student. Okay, assume the responsibility to maintain and sustain his professional growth and advancement. Refrain from making deductions in students' scholastic ratings for acts that are clearly not manifestations of poor scholarship. Okay, so sometimes we become too personal. Okay, and have it charged against the grade of the students. No. Not for in matters not relating to the scholarship, okay, of the student. Okay. And number 6, we have participate as an agent of constructive social, economic, moral, intellectual, cultural, and political change in the school and the community. Then we have the administrators' obligations. Perform their duties, okay. Be accountable for the efficient and effective administration and management of the school, develop and maintain a healthy school atmosphere, assume and maintain professional behavior in the work and in dealing with students, teachers, academic, non-teaching personnel, administrative, and parents or guardians. Render academic adequate reports and observe due process, fairness, promptness, privacy, constructiveness, and consistency in disciplining, okay, their teachers and other personnel. So it has to be observed, okay, due process, fairness, promptness, privacy, constructiveness, okay, and consistency, and maintain adequate records and submit required reports to the Department of Education. And then for academic non-teaching personnel, improve themselves professionally, assume, promote, and maintain a professional attitude towards work, students, teachers, administrators, blah, blah, and promote and maintain an atmosphere conducive to the learning. So, Batas Pambansa, okay, bilang 232, otherwise known as the Education Act of 1982, also provides for the discussion on the trifocalized educational system. So when we talk about trifocalized, so we talk about an educational system that is three-tiered. Okay, so we have one that offers formal, non-formal, okay, and for formal, okay, we have the trifocalized, meaning the formal education is viewed, as a three-tier formal educational system. So we have the basic, we have the post-secondary, university or college, and then we have the technical vocational. Okay. Then we have the other provisions. Okay. So kindly check, okay, the other provisions, okay, including the rules and regulations, okay, in the implementation, okay, IRR, implementing rules and regulations. So all national laws have their corresponding IRR. IRR stands for implementing rules and regulations. So these are specific guides in so far as the execution of the different provisions of the law is concerned. Okay, so that's what an IRR is. Okay, so we have implementing rules and regulations. Okay. Right. And then we have the Republic Act 7798. Okay. So which is an amendment of the Education Act. Okay. So only some, but it's not a total repeal of the law. So only amendment. So when we talk about amendment, we have a change in parts. Okay. Revision means total, okay, revamp. Okay. So that's the difference between amendment and revision. Okay. So let's take a look at what are amended, okay, insofar as Republic Act number 7798 is concerned. Okay, so we have eto lang. So section 1 on the section 1, the amendment for section 25 on the establishment of schools. So that is number 1. So changes were made, I think, in terms of the amount to be paid for capital, for paid up capital for stock educational institutions. That's number 1. And then number 2, we have the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, because in 232 it all still mentions of it's still mentioned the mention of Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports. Okay, so we called our we termed our departments, okay, such as Department of Education previously as ministries. Okay. particularly in the during the term of former President Ferdinand E. Marcos. Okay. So I think that's the only amendment. Okay. Then we have Republic Act number 7722. Okay, in observance of the trifocalization of education, it used to be under the ministry. Okay, from the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, it was weaned from DEX. Okay, so the Higher Education Institution Department, back then, it was under the Bureau of Higher Education. Okay, so in 1994, the Commission on Higher Education, okay, as the agency of the government that is charged with the singular responsibility of supervising and regulating the higher education institutions under the Commission on Higher Education. Okay. Then we have also the rules and regulations implementing TESDA of 1994. So I think I already have mentioned about the trifocalization. It was basically under Republic Act 7796, okay, an act creating the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, providing for its powers, structures, and for other purposes. Okay. Then we have 9155, okay, an act instituting a framework of governance for basic education, and this was prior to 2012, okay, because okay, so it was during this time when the Department of Education was was introduced as the new name of the Department of Education, Culture and Sports. Okay. Then we have DepEd Order number 1, series of 2023, Republic Act 7784 on the act is strengthening teacher education in the Philippines by establishing centers of excellence, creating a teacher education council for the purpose, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Okay. And then we have the Republic Act 8980 on early childhood care and development. Then we have the Executive Order 356 renaming Bureau of Non-Formal Education to Bureau of Alternative Learning System, or ALS. Okay. And then we have the more recent one, the Act enhancing the Philippine basic education system by strengthening its curriculum and increasing the number of years for basic education, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Republic Act 10533, and then complementary, we have 10157, the Act institutionalizing the kindergarten into the basic education system and appropriating funds therefore. Okay, so you see, the move to increase the number of years in the basic education was not only in the more recent years. It was actually based on our discussion, okay, in the videos and in the materials that I have uploaded in the Google Classroom. It started as early as 1930s, with the Monroe Survey, and then succeeded by others. And the more recent was during the time of former President Macapagal Arroyo. Okay, and then it was only during the time of former President Noynoy Aquino when the shift of the basic education from the the 10-year basic educational program to what is now referred to as K to 12. So it increased to a total of 13, no, because kindergarten was already made mandatory. Okay, and this is in pursuit of complying with the requirements, okay, of the so-called SDGs. Okay, SDGs, as you all know, the Sustainable Development Goals was introduced previously as MDGs, or the Millennium Development Goals. So these are set of 8 goals that the member nations of the United Nations have agreed to endeavor to realize, okay, by the year 2015. Okay, and in 2015, when the 15-year period, you know, expired, they need to have it um, supported by a similar endeavor, and to having another 15 years, no, which was launched under the name Sustainable Development Goals. Now, education as a goal has is one of the set of 16 goals. Okay, and this is also in preparation for the participation of the Philippines in ASEAN, for the regionalization. Okay, maybe you have heard of ASEAN Economic Community, that the member nations of ASEAN, 10 member nations in total, except for one, which is Timor-Leste. Okay, they have agreed to uh, to uh, have single economy, and a part of uh, the the great, okay, plan is to actually have one of the 3 major pillars of the AEC, or the ASEAN Economic Community, okay, is the social pillar, okay, which education, okay, is under. Okay, the thrust of education is part of. So remember that Philippines and another one nation in all nations, okay, is the only country offering the 10-year basic education program back then. So if I'm not mistaken, Aruba is another, but there are only 2, and Philippines is one of the 2. Even our ASEAN neighbors, have at least 12. In the case of Singapore, actually 14. Okay, and therefore, in order to participate in the regionalization process, Philippines has to also pace up and meet the standards of the member nations in the regional level and internationally. So that's why the piloting came prior to the approval of the law. Okay, so it's quite unusual because the practice actually is to have first the law mandating the creation of this before the piloting of the program. But in the case of K to 12, the piloting came in before the approval. Okay, because you also will note of the passage of a law, it will take some time even before it is being approved, no? Because it has to undergo the different steps, no? From the first reading up to the 3rd reading and to the publication, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we end with our discussion for the first part, okay, about laws pertaining to the constitutional provisions governing education, the educational system, and governance laws. Any questions? So with that, I say good day to everyone. So we now